board meeting to order. Sorry. I'm stuck. We'll call our April board meeting to order. Welcome all of you. It's a beautiful day, so thanks for coming inside. I tried to make a deal that we could sit outside, but nobody took me up on it. So we aren't sitting outside on the jungle gyms. We're inside. Welcome all. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm pushing over that plate. We're ready for item 3.03, our superintendent comments. Dr. Seifert.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We've got a great group with us tonight. Good to see you all. And if you are joining at home, we're glad you're with us as well. Some good news to share. Mr. Shields over there, myself, Mr. Bennett, and Mr. Ostoff, Dan Ostoff, went to the Trade Alley Network Awards this past Monday, and we picked up some hardware and received the Energy Efficiency Champion Award from Emory UE for our efforts and all the things that we're doing. You can clap for that. That's awesome. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I suppose I do. It's basically just an award provided to an organization, so not necessarily a school, for tremendous reduction in kilowatt hours used over the course of the school year, or over the course of a calendar year. So that's what they base it off of. And to give you a comparison, there was one other award winner within the region, that was Mercy Hospital. So in my belief, we're in good company.
It was awesome. We also recently announced and celebrate our District Teacher of the Year, Mr. Jeffrey Collier. He is the band teacher at Hardin Middle School. Mr. Collier is a perfect example of an SCSD teacher who goes above and beyond for our students every day, and we say congratulations to Mr. Collier. Also, congratulations are in order for our newly elected board members. We will actually have that sworn-in ceremony here in just a little bit, but I also personally wanted to welcome and congratulate Mrs. Karen O'Hearn. You can clap for her. And Mr. Brian O'Mara, please give him a hand as well. And they both have some good-looking family members with them tonight as well. We're glad you're with us, and congratulations to both of you. And we also like to congratulate our very own Mrs. Gibson for being reelected too, so let's give her a hand. I want to thank our other two candidates that ran as well, and as you all know, a strong school district starts with strong leadership, and I mean this when I say this. I think the people who are on this board, and then also the people who are joining our board, you are volunteers and you're stepping up to the plate to serve and lead us, and we appreciate everything that you do, and thank you for that. On a side note, tonight's closed session after the open session, due to the new board members being sworn in, is where we will recommend to the board for approval to hire a few important administrative positions. So tonight, typically when we do that, we would have them here and announce them, but we will not have them tonight since we're doing a closed session after tonight's open session, if you followed that clearly. But we're excited. We'll have an update out tomorrow about some hopefully pending approvals of some great people joining our staff for next year. As everyone is aware, we had a swatting/hoax call at St. Charles High just a couple weeks ago. As I sent out an update earlier this week, we are all relieved that the incident has been fully investigated by our SHS admin team first, and then also law enforcement, with the result of a suspect in a different state being identified and charged. With that said, please know that we will continue to do everything we can as a district to keep our staff and students safe. We are in continual communication with our city's police department as we look for ways to continue to fortify, educate, train, and communicate our safety protocols. Spring sports season is going strong. Golf, girls soccer, baseball, and track and field are all busy with practices and games. We've had some awesome musicals the last month or so as well, so just some great things happening in our schools. And then tonight, we've prepared a great meeting for you. You're gonna see some policy changes, a CSIP update, calendar revision, election results. Obviously, that board organizational meeting will take place, our consent agenda, community education, adult education program review. That will be the highlight, Steve, tonight. And then also a program review, financial planning and investment of surplus funds from Mr. Shields, and also the district financial report from Mr. Shields. So as we're in the middle of April, it's unbelievable that we're in the middle of April. That means the end of the school year is in sight. I want to encourage us all to keep going strong. Our standardized testing season is upon us here pretty soon, and I know our students would do their very best. And I would just want to shout out to all of our staff and students for all the great work they do every day. And let's just complete this school year with a great finish. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready for item 3.04, board communications. Do we have some?
Yes, we received a note from Leslie Knight just saying thank you for the last 6 years. She's sad to go, but knows the district in his good hands and wishes us all the best.
Great.
We appreciate her service. Item 3.05 is our audience comment time. We do have some cards.
I'll read.
I know I forget that one. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We have the portion that you need to read. Thank
Yes.
you.
All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
Thank you. We do have some audience cards. Kathy Alsop and Jill Meyer. Tag team.
I'd like to introduce Jill and myself. We are co-presidents of SCSD, the St. Charles Education Support Staff Association. We would like to congratulate Lori Gibson, Karen O'Hearn, Brian O'Mara on their successful campaigns, and we welcome you, and we welcome Ms. Gibson back to the St. Charles School Board. We also want to express our appreciation and gratitude to Mike Thorne and Leslie Knight for their service to the school district, students, staff, and community of St. Charles. So thank you to those two. As an update, SCSD is continuing to work with Dr. Lewis and HR in updating and revising the classified job descriptions. Our next working session is April 27th. And we are working with Jeremy Shields to finalize details on the 23-24 classified salary schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa? Teresa, when am I going to say your name correctly? Linsnick. Linsnick, thank you.
Good, okay, sure. My name is Teresa Linsnick. I'm mom of a St. Charles High grad. Congratulations to all the members of the school board, and thank you, all the new members of the school board, and thank you to those who already have been working to help our students succeed. I've been thinking, what are the duties of a school board member? I looked it up and read this. The role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their community. Again, the role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. I like what one school board member's slogan is, I ask the tough questions, and another's is honesty in education. The role of the school board is to represent the community and not the union. Talking about the National Education Association, did you know that it's the nation's largest union? Did you know that many teachers are part of the NEA in order to get professional liability insurance, but do not necessarily agree with the NEA's politics? Teachers go into teaching because they love children, not because they want to get on the newest political bandwagon. I highly doubt if the NEA represents most teachers' values. For instance, the NEA is for biological males competing in female sports in the name of justice. Do you think it's justice for a biological male to dominate because they are stronger naturally, with stronger muscles, denser, stronger bones, tendons, and ligaments? This policy cancels out female sports. Australian parents have seen the result of males in girls' soccer with their daughters suffering injuries from males on the field. That is just one issue. Did you know that in fiscal year 2021, 18% of NEA funding went to political activities, whereas just 9% went to representing teachers? Just remember the role of the school board. The role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Lauren Mertz?
Good evening. I'm Lauren Mertz, and I'm the local president of our MSTA group. And I, as always, love to share something positive with you all. And so I asked some of our members to share some things they're really excited about this year. So I have just a couple things to share. Crystal Jackson and Noel said, "I'm proud of my fourth grade group that has worked so hard for the last 2 years. They have caught up in reading and are reading on grade level." So nice job to Miss Jackson. Shelley Trotterman from Lincoln and Blackhurst said, "I'm proud of the work I've been able to do as the RTI specialist. I've helped multiple students grow academically and social-emotionally this year. The data is showing growth. Thanks to our district for allowing this position to grow and continue to help students and teachers in my buildings." Scott Humphreys, fourth grade from Lincoln, says, "I'm proud of the relationships built this year and the amount of learning my students have done." Excuse me. Lisa Peterson, a special education teacher at Hardin Middle, said, "I am so proud of my resource math students. They have made so much progress and are able to do much of what is going on in the general education room. I have a student move from resource to gen ed, and she is blossoming." And then finally, Amanda Davis from St. Charles High in Jefferson. She wrote me this long story about how she had a baby just recently, and all the shout outs that she gave to the people that really helped her. I'll name them really quickly. Mr. Bippen, Mr. Strage, a retired teacher who came in and stepped in to help her, Mr. Scott from St. Charles West, Mrs. Bush, also a retired teacher who helped, the St. Charles High secretary, Mrs. Irizarry, I think I'm saying that right, and Mrs. Lowe at Jefferson, also Mr. Meyer, Mr. Blankenship, Courtney Gibson, and Robin Veal, and Jeff Collier all helped her. And just, she talked so much about how everybody pitched in and really helped her when she needed it. So thanks for letting me share. Thank you.
Jana Geiger?
Hello, I am Jana Geiger, and I am a co-vice president for SCEA, and I am subbing for Brendan tonight. Central office staff and members of the Board of Education, I am here to represent SCEA, the exclusive bargaining organization for certified employees of our district. I'd like to begin by thanking our departing board members, Mike Thorne and Leslie Knight. Both Mike and Leslie have been willing to put their time and energy into making the St. Charles School District a great place for students and staff. We wish you well in your future endeavors. We would also like to congratulate Lori Gibson on her reelection and welcome our two new board members, Karen O'Hearn and Brian O'Mara. Thank you for your willingness to volunteer your time in leading our school district and our community. We look forward to engaging with you to keep our district going in the right direction. Last month, SCSD employees sat down with central office staff to an agreement on revision to next year's calendar. We would like to thank the board for the dedicated day for our video training. as well as the 2 days added during winter break. Finally, we would like to recognize some outstanding work by our members. Hardin band teacher Jeff Collier was named District Teacher of the Year. Lindsay Dobbins, music teacher at Lincoln, recently put on a production of the musical Pajama Party put on by the second grades, the first musical ever done at Lincoln Elementary. And Ashley Martin and Matthew Ryan, who hosted a trivia night to help support students traveling to Germany this summer, raising over $2,000 to split amongst 7 students. Thank you again for your support, and we look forward to partnering with you on behalf of our St. Charles staff members.
Thank you. Before we move on to item 3.06, which is the rest of our agenda, we usually take a short break. Those of you who would like to excuse yourself at this time and enjoy the outdoors, or if you have other commitments, we'll take a few minutes and take that break. This is your time to escape. Well, it looks like everybody's saying we don't need the break. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead then. We're ready for items. It's going to be a long meeting anyway. Item 3.06, do I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I move we amend the agenda, the consent agenda, to pull the job descriptions out and place them in item 8.01 for discussion.
Okay, so so I can find it on my, we're pulling out item,
7.06.
okay. So we have a motion to pull item 7.06 from the consent agenda. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we'll pull that item out when we get to it.
Thank you.
Item 4.01. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 9th?
I move we approve the minutes from March 9th.
Do I have a second? Lori, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 4.02, these are policy changes, and this is our second reading. Is there any discussion on these policy changes? Do I have a motion to approve the policy changes as presented?
I move to approve policies IF, IGAD, IGCE as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item 4.03 is a CSIP update, and we are covering the last 3 of our categories. Who's starting with that?
I can just kind of tee it up for these guys, but in, I think, October or November, Dr. Lewis and I did our part of governance and HR. We wanted to split it up because it can kind of be long, but it's important for us to have an annual review of, we always put CSIP, obviously, everything that we do revolves our CSIP goals, and so when we have reports and different things that we present, our goals are automatically in those reports because that's what we're working on. However, it's always good and good practice to have an annual review of each area. So like I said, we've already done governance and personnel in the fall. And so tonight we have facilities, student achievement, and family involvement. So I'll turn it over to these 3.
Thank you. Chris, can you jump to slide 8, please? Thank you. So for student performance, we had 4 key objectives, one being increasing student achievement, systemic approach to intervention and enrichment, high-quality professional development, and then lastly, trauma-informed schools and social-emotional needs. With that being said, we can't talk about student achievement without talking about MSIP 6. We know that's kind of been a hot topic for the past couple of months with the release of MSIP 6 and the state going from MSIP 5 to MSIP 6 this year. And so we, the first week of March, we did receive our APR score, which I'll go over with the board in a few slides. But I did just want to remind you of how the scoring is done for our overall APR score. 70% of our score is based on student performance. So that's the data. That's MAP and EOC scores, which we often refer to as student achievement. Then there's a student growth component, which is new this year, graduation rate, and then there's success measures. Success measures include attendance, it includes advanced credit, and it also includes some of our college and career readiness assessments. Then the 30% of that score is considered continuous improvement, and that's our story. That's our opportunity to talk about all of the things that we are doing as a district. And that starts with the CSIP, which we are reviewing tonight. I'm happy to report that our CSIP, we received all of our points for CSIP. We received all of our points for student, staff, and parent surveys. And then response to standards, we submitted that, but we will not get a score on that until the 24-25 school year. So if we go to the next slide, so what's St. Charles School District's APR score? So our score is 77%, which is accredited. And it's important to keep in mind that this is the first year that these scores have been released, and so this is a baseline score. It will be a 3-year average to give us our full accreditation status. I did want to just, for your information, put the different tiers that are associated with the APR score. So you have accredited with distinction, and that is a district that earns 95% or higher. Accredited is a 70% to 74.9%. Provisionally accredited is a district who earns between 50 and 69.9% of the points possible. And then unaccredited is below 50%. And so we are at a 77. If we go to the next slide, I do want to show you, because it was sticker shock. And we realized that. I think everyone across the state realized the sticker shock going from MSIP 5 to MSIP 6. The last time districts received an APR score was before the pandemic in 2019. And so if you look at the top chart, so we had 86 schools who on MSIP 5 scored 100% on that. We had 226 school districts score between a 95 and a 99%. So that was the breakdown and distribution of APR scores under MSIP 5 compared to that bottom chart under MSIP 6. So as you can see, there was a huge shift in the opposite direction from the state. And just to point out some numbers to you, so in 2019, 82% of the districts from across the state scored above a 90%. In 2023, 92% of the districts scored below a 90%. So there was a huge shift in how scoring is done. Metrics changed under MSIP 6, and the state has been preparing districts for that. However, it was still sticker shock to a lot of, well, really to everyone, I will be honest. Every district received scores lower than they thought they would get. So next slide. So when we look at the performance levels or the status levels under MSIP 6, when it comes to student achievement, there are 4 statuses. Target is the highest status that you can receive. On track is the next highest, then approaching, and then the lowest status that you may receive is the floor. And then when it comes to student growth, the highest status is above average, and then there's average growth, and then below average growth is the lowest. So what does that mean for us, St. Charles School District, if you go to the next slide? So this information, this isn't new information. This is what we shared in our February board presentation when we presented on student achievement. But as you can see, for ELA achievement, there were 12 points possible. St. Charles School District received 9 of the 12 points, which put us on track. And this is important for everyone to remember that we are talking about last year's assessment, so the 21-22 EOC and MAP data. Student group, go back up for 1 second. Student group, that refers to our groups who have historically underperformed. So under MSIP 6, all of those groups get grouped together to make one group called student group. So that refers to our ELL students, free and reduced lunch students, African-American students, and IEP students. So as you can see, we were on track in all of those categories when it comes to achievement. On the next page, we have student growth. And so growth is only measured in ELA and in math. It is not measured in science and social studies because they only take those assessments in 5th and 8th grade for science, and then in biology at the high school level. And then for social studies, it's only tested at government. So they don't measure growth for science and social studies. But as you will see that we had average growth, and so those are our breakdown of points for student growth. And then under success measures, Success Ready, CCR, so that's college and career readiness. We received an approaching mark on that, 5 out of the 10 points. What we realized is that we had some students that did not take an assessment, the ASVAB, in 10th grade. And so we didn't get those scores for those students because they didn't take it, they missed it, or they transferred to the district after their 10th grade year. And so when that happens and they graduate from our district without those scores, that counts against us. So we have a plan in place for this year to catch those students, but this is one of the things with the change in MSIP that was not caught in time. And so we took a ding under our college and career readiness. We did receive all of our points for advanced credit, so we are on target there. And then we know our graduation rate is something that we are continually to work on post-COVID, and we are marked as on track. So when it comes to student performance under our CSIP, and remember this goes back to 2019 through 2024 is our CSIP. So these are some of the things that we feel we have met, and we wanted to highlight some of those things. One of the first things that we've done is restructured our curriculum writing process. That now goes from a 1-year writing to a 2-year writing process for our core classes. We hope to get there with our electives, but as of now, we're starting that with our core classes and really starting this year with social studies. We have created a K-12 advisory committee for our content areas. We conduct CNI instructional walkthroughs. That's members of my team, the instructional specialists, along with the building principals and instructional coaches for each building. And then we debrief with them. We talk about strengths, and we identify opportunities for growth. Over the past 5 years, we have expanded career and technical education programming through Lewis and Clark and CAPS, and Steve is going to talk about a little of that tonight in his presentation. We have added RTI specialists at our elementary levels. We have instructional coaches. I'm happy to announce that we have instructional coaches in all of our buildings with the recently added high school positions. We utilize our title funds and ESSER funds to hire academic support teachers in the areas of math and reading. We have restructured our Success Campus, which is our alternative campus, to provide both full and half-time options for students who the traditional school just isn't working for them. And then we have also expanded programming at our Early Childhood Center to include both full and half-day options. So that was under the increasing student achievement. Our next objective was a systemic approach to intervention and enrichment. So we have what's called RTI time intervention built into pretty much every school building in our district. So we have RTI specialists, learning loss teachers, reading and math support teachers who have been hired. They provide tier 2 and 3 interventions to students in small groups. They also push into classrooms and provide one-on-one assistance with students, and they provide instruction in small groups. We have gone to a district-wide implementation of PBIS. We've also included a universal screener for gifted, so we are identifying more students early who are eligible to go into our gifted program. And then we've also increased after-school programming and activities, which include tutoring and credit recovery for some of our high school students who have fallen behind. Our next objective, next slide, Chris. That's our professional development. And so as you know, we do have a district professional development committee known as the DPDC. Every year when we hire new teachers, whether they are brand new to the profession or whether they're just new to St. Charles School District, we invite them in for a 3-day summer kind of institute called our New Teacher Orientation. Those teachers also participate in monthly workshops as well. We also provide summer workshops for our certified staff, and every October, we provide a professional development day. And this is something that's very unique to St. Charles School District, is that we provide professional development for both our certified and non-certified staff. There's not a lot of districts that provide the PD for support staff. We do allocate funds to buildings as well for professional development, so that if they have unique building needs, the principals can use those funds at their discretion to provide professional development opportunities for their staff. And then another thing that's not very common, there are districts that use CEUs, but it's not a common practice. We have CEUs that we offer to our staff as well to help them stay current in educational practices and trends. Our last category was trauma-informed school and social emotional needs. We have building care teams. We have district-wide student needs committee. Our admin receive mental health first aid training during our summer retreat. We do have partnerships with lots of outside agencies to address social and emotional needs of our students. We have gone through trauma-informed training district-wide. We have added social workers and behavior specialists at our elementary levels. We do have a district PBIS leadership team, and then we also have student mentor programs at our secondary schools for new students who transfer into the district mid-year. So with that, we do know we still have some room for growth, and so if you go to the next slide, our ongoing needs, we've talked about these before, but we need to continue to work to increase our attendance rate post-COVID and our graduation rate. We need to reconvene some of the committees that were formed pre-COVID that just kind of disbanded over the years due to COVID. We've talked about this several times, the transition years. We know that our district has a lot of transitions from 4th to 5th grade, from 6th to 7th grade, and from 8th to 9th. So we need to strengthen that support that we have for students. And then in particular, when we look at Jefferson, and this is one of the things that we are kind of starting to work on this summer with Jefferson, is really maximizing that schedule in order to get the most out of the schedule over at Jefferson and really meet the needs of our students who are 5th graders, who are more like elementary, but then our 6th graders are more like young middle schoolers. We also need to continue working to strengthen both academic and behavior Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. We know that there's a new state law, literacy law, that has taken place, and so which requires us to make sure that our ELA curriculum in K through 4 promotes the science of reading, and so we will be working over the next year to rewrite our elementary ELA curriculum to make those adjustments. We need to continue working to strengthen our K-12 alignment across all content areas. And then when it comes to PBIS, really having programming to teach social and emotional needs, and then making sure that we have consistent universals and expectations K-12. So that is student performance. I'm going to turn it over to Julie for parent involvement.
Okay, so the 4 areas that our parent and community involvement targeted in our CSIP were centralized, standardized methods of communication, systematic, proactive in supporting families, engaging all families, and building intentional partnerships with the community. So I kind of broke those down per target here. And so the first one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the highlights of the things that we met for centralized method of communication. So first and foremost, Chris, our little guy, didn't mean to say a little guy, but our guy back there on the board, or on the computer, he has an advisory board. He's our communications person for the district, who was a new position since I've entered the district, but he's been very, very helpful in trying to work with the community and our families and staff on communication throughout the district. So he works with leaders in the city and the county and they actually have an advisory board in which they look at our websites and our methods of communication and ways to improve. He's also kind of the behind-the-scenes guy for our social media. So we use our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our Peach Jar for things such as snow days, happenings in our buildings, emergencies, community events, job openings, all sorts of information there. We have a program he also works with called S'more, and that is used to send newsletters to all staff and families twice a month. And so our district staff, I believe, get those in emails, and then our families have access to those on our district website. Important dates and timelines for open houses, class schedules, registrations, teacher assignments, et cetera, are being developed at the district level. So that was a kind of complaint we got from staff a few years back, and we continue to get about, we have a lot of, as Earl said, we have a lot of different transitions in our district. And so if you have a student that's at the middle school level, another one at the high school level, and another one at the elementary level, and open house is all on Tuesday from 5 to 7, you're struggling. So we're really trying to work with our buildings and our administrators on kind of shoring up schedules, which will allow our staff and our families to be able to kind of spread those out so that people can be more involved at that level. Let's see, so using SIS, which I just put SIS because our student information system is going to be changing for next school year. But we do have a student information system that we use now, as well as Class Dojo, Google Classroom, and maybe a few other different programs in which our buildings, our teachers, our administrators are all using in order to send out communication to families. So letters can be just, emails can be just put into SIS and sent out to a whole group of students or families. And it can be logged in there for contact records. Assignments and links to homework can be given on those sites. Grades, lunch balance, discipline, attendance, all of that can be accessed by parents and staff members in our student information system. So get a little more techie there. So the next page, Chris, systematic and proactive ways in supporting families. So some of the things we targeted in our action plan there were community resources are now linked to our school district website. We have, if you go onto our district website, I don't even think I realize how many resources we have linked straight to community resources on that site, such as if you needed to use a facility or baseball field, our Education Foundation, the city websites linked, Care to Learn's linked on there, the DDRB, Chamber of Commerce, Library, Parks and Rec, Historical Society, all of those links, you can go straight to our, oh, Chris, you're showing us, thank you. You can find lots and lots of great links on there. Family Festival is something that we also started, I don't know how many years back. Kelly, do you know how many years? 6, maybe?
At least 7.
7? So beginning of the school year, this year it'll be on, we finally settled, on August 15th at St. Charles High School, we're gonna have the Family Festival. That is a time when all of our buildings, all of our resources in the community come together. It's a really good time. Families can come and have a hot dog and have, drinks, come and get books, school supplies, haircuts, just all sorts of things for families. So it's very nice because our families that maybe are a little more in need, they have the opportunity to come and get some much-needed resources. Centralized enrollment began this school year. We were trying to get towards centralized enrollment, and then it just sort of happened one day this year. And we had Danielle McNamee, one of our assistants here in central office, kind of jumped in and offered to do it. So all of our families can now enroll online, which is huge as well, because as we talk about all the different schools you could have a student in, before you were having to go to each school and enroll them, You'd have to go to Harris, you'd have to go to Jefferson, you'd have to go to each school that you had a student in. So she is able to do that all online, centralized, and then when a parent fills out the form, she contacts them and then, calls them with next steps. There's also, we also have Susie Mills, who's our parent liaison for our families that might not speak English. And so she's able to help with enrollment as well, which is very helpful. And having centralized enrollment, then when we have families maybe that come in to our district in need, or maybe homeless or foster students, those can be flagged right there at central enrollment, and we're able to start at that point in the system, or at that point in the process, and get them the help they need. So that was that. So the next page, Chris, engaging all families. So some of the things we do as a district, or have done in the district, some of the curriculum nights, that was something curriculum did quite a bit prior to COVID. They're kind of getting back to some of those things as we get towards the other end of COVID, hopefully. And so when a new curriculum comes into practice for our district, then they usually have a curriculum night in which families can come and learn about the new curriculum. Parent University, we had one this year, last month, called Hidden in Plain Sight, about the opioid. Oh, did I say that right? Oh, okay, I can never say that right. Opioid epidemic. Neat activity the parents were invited to. And so those are they're less attended than previously, but we're hoping to kind of get those suckers up and running a little better. Parents as Teachers has expanded this school year. So we're working more towards a universal model instead of just for families in need. Currently, we have a wait list for our Parents as Teachers. So we are, really trying to expand that program. Volunteer opportunities in our schools, speaker series in our schools. We have senior parent night and college career fair nights at the high schools. So those are some other opportunities for families to get engaged. And I think this is our last one, building intentional partnerships with communities. So we are a very resource-rich community. Never seen anything like it. We are able to kind of break down those silos where we're working independently of each other. And we have some great organizations such as Care to Learn, where we are a chapter and we're able to help families with needs of health, hunger, hygiene. We have partnerships with We Love St. Charles. We used to have a partnership with Neighbor Helping Neighbor. And so We Love St. Charles has kind of taken over a little bit of that, where we actually walk along and support families in need. So Neighbor Helping Neighbor was in a church in our community, and that church has closed, and so now they don't serve families in our district. But we do have other organizations such as We Love St. Charles that have really just kind of jumped in right there. We are looking at an in-district student clinic in partnership with Compass, hopefully to open in August in one of our buildings, in which our students might have the opportunity to get free healthcare. Currently, we're working and partnering with a psychiatrist once a month with Compass Health. So that is one piece we're able to do right now for our students that utilize Compass. We have back prep programs with local churches in many of our buildings. And we are also looking at an integration. You might not have heard of Aspen, which is really a full resource directory that some other counties are using at this time, that include resources, screening tools, crisis alert hotlines, things like that. And Handle with Care is another program we're kind of looking at, where if a police officer would go into a home and have a child might be there, and it could be traumatic, that they're looking at a way in which there's a program in which our schools could be alerted as to if that student might need to be handled with care the next day, without giving any information, just let's handle that child with care. Maybe something's going on. So we've got some really neat partnerships with our community. We always have, and they just kind of keep coming out of the woodwork, and it's great because we benefit from all of those resources. So, all right, so ongoing needs, and a few of those things I just talked about are on my ongoing needs list. So we always are looking for better ways to communicate. So we have a lot of, since we wrote this in 2019, technology in itself has come a long way, and it will continue to come a long way, or go a long way. So we're always looking for ways to communicate better. We're always looking for ways to kind of streamline things such as open houses, parent-teacher conferences, and ways that would allow parents to be able to participate better. Developing district-wide guidelines for effective communication, and then partnering with community resources to implement programs such as that Aspen and some of those other ideas. And again, we're excited to kind of look at that clinic with Compass. And so that might be something really, really neat that might be coming our way next August.
We are very excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Shields.
All right, thank you, Julie. Real quick, facility support and instructional resources. We had 4 goals listed within CSIP that we wanted to focus in on: providing excellent facilities and support services for the district, ensuring the safety and security for students, staff, and visitors, providing high-quality instructional resources for students, teachers, and families, and then maintaining and enhancing the district technology resources. So a few items under the providing excellent facilities and support services. One of the bigger ones that we are currently undergoing is software from Brightly. That's Asset and Operations Management. And basically what this does is it barcodes every high-needs facilities equipment that we have within our district. That way we have an ongoing assessment tool to determine what needs to replace, what needs preventative maintenance, and so on and so on. So that would greatly benefit us and certainly update and upgrade us from a technological standpoint within our facilities group. So that is ongoing. We do have everything identified. They are currently working on barcoding that so we can spit out very quickly the information that we need our facilities team to address and respond to. And it's not something that we believe it needs to be fixed or it needs to have preventative maintenance schedules done on. It is factual based on the contractor requirements. So we're excited about that. We've also continued a focus on green initiatives, which was heavily resourced within our CSIP model. That's been really a big focus of our bond work. And as you guys heard earlier, Ameren did recognize the district for our efforts in that region, or in that area. So we believe we are moving forward in the right direction with that. But as you can imagine with HVAC, if you look at it from a residential, commercial standpoint, those are always high-need areas. And we have a very short timeline as a school district to improve and enhance those, just because we want the school environment to be as student-friendly as we can possibly make it. And if it's student-friendly, we know it's staff-friendly as well. So we're pleased with our efforts there, certainly, but know that that's not just a one-time effort or just a quarterly effort or anything like that. It's an ongoing effort by us and something that we constantly have to stay ahead of. Moving on with that, we have had plot design and civil engineering work performed at Newfoundland Place with Lewis and Clark. They have completed and sold their first home in that subdivision, currently working on their second house right now. If you don't know where that is next to Knoll Elementary. And as always, they build beautiful homes for us, and always go for a price tag that's market driven. That's
As I say, legit.
Yeah. So bond construction progression has followed CSIP goals. Currently, access for all. We are working on putting elevators in some of our 2-story buildings. Very difficult to do that. It's very difficult for our architects to design those spaces without creating additions into those buildings, because as you can imagine, our buildings that were designed back in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s did not consider this in their design. So going back and adding those in is quite expensive, but something that we recognize needs to happen. So we have 2 buildings right now that are undergoing some of that work. Enhance added instructional spaces. depending on what the building needs are, and a lot of that's driven by student population and student need. Library Media Center improvements, just because of the changing times and the changing technology regarding library and the increased efforts on that, meeting those state standards. We have had to redesign some of those. And then roof replacement, repair, and then obviously the HVAC work. Athletic turf replacement is complete along with track, but athletic turf was put in the CSIP, so that's why I identified that. Bond spending is managed and communicated to determine the future planning. So right now, we have spending that's going to be happening at Coverdale and Lincoln. Those are HVAC projects entirely, with the exception of Lincoln out of that. They will possibly get an addition for a kitchen, an increase in size to their kitchen, which we are excited about. That's still in the design phase for that right now, but we do hope to have bids coming in June for that. Monroe Phase 2, that would complete pretty much an entire renovation of that building this summer. So we have about a quarter of that remaining. We had about 3/4 of that work done last summer, so we were pleased with the outcome. Knoll will have a pretty extensive project starting now, really, and that will carry us all the way through spring of next school year. That's going to be an addition for a FEMA shelter, finally give them a gym space that's separate from their cafeteria space, while adding in an addition that includes classroom space and an elevator. Blackhurst has pretty much the same design going on, along with a kitchen renovation. St. Charles High School has had a lot of work done out of this bond issue. We are currently going out for bid for a new press box there. Just because of that age of the current press box, we certainly have to give that some attention before we have to respond in a very quick and emergent manner, which we want to avoid at all possible. And Harris will possibly have some work depending on the results of the board tonight. So that's where we're currently wanting to spend, and where we are wanting to spend, and where we're currently going to be spending from some of our money to improve that. Chris, if we go on there. Ensure the safety and security for students, staff, and visitors. We have, this is relatively new to us. We do have tablets installed on all of our buses. Those tablets will give the bus driver all of their routes for that given period and their bus stops, so they will not be referring to paper anymore. They will just refer to the tablet that's on their dash, which is a tablet thinking of the size of an iPad is what they would have there, and that's what they would follow. It's great for a lot of reasons. Increased safety is the biggest one while driving, but it's also fantastic for our substitute bus drivers. So they follow a route that is easily read rather than paper. And so we're one of the few districts to have that installed. Another nice benefit of that is the GPS monitoring. It'll be an app called MyStop that will be provided to parents so they can see the buses in motion, and it will give them a very real picture of where that bus is at. This is entirely important for us as a school district, especially at the beginning of the school year. If your parents in here, you know what I'm talking about, where you're like, my goodness, it's 10, 15 minutes late. And some of that's just due to kindergartners and parents and seeing them off, and we want to be cordial with that and not rush that process. But that's going to be extremely helpful on weather delays, things of that nature. This will be a huge benefit for us as a district, but also we think it'll be a tremendous benefit to our parents as well. We have Safe Defend in almost every classroom. I'm talking just a few classrooms do not have a Safe Defend box at this point in time. And if you're not familiar with Safe Defend, those boxes are put in classrooms to respond to an intruder type of situation and alerts emergency personnel at the touch of a button on that box, which is all fingerprint led. So we've almost entirely completed that project, which is a wonderful addition to each one of our classroom spaces. Raptor's installed, and it's used throughout every front office within our school. That just identifies any potential risk from any visitor in the school by having every visitor to go through a process where we identify if they are allowed on school visits. Technology is involved in every construction project, so we consider security system surveillance and building access in every security project that we have moving forward. those are always discussed, and those are always at the forefront of every construction project. So to give you an idea of what that means, when we add spaces, when we renovate spaces, those items are at the forefront of those decisions. So we do not want to leave those items out. And then 4E training is offered to all of our district employees. It's relatively new to us as a district. It's not as new to law enforcement. However, law enforcement will train, and they will train our employees, but they are also going to receive additional training this summer to not only train our employees, but also to train our students. And when I say train, I use that a bit loosely, but to certainly educate and provide them with scenarios that are like we just had at St. Charles High, where a swatting call goes out. What can you expect and how should you respond? And we do not want to create student situations where they are trying to follow a plan to a T, because we know that that does not give them realistic scenario. So those are always difficult things to discuss and to talk about, because none of us are in that business necessarily. None of us entertain that when we got into education, but it's certainly something that we have to respond to and be prepared for as educators throughout our entire career. So that's just responding to those societal needs that have been compromised at this point in time. So some more, we have maintaining and enhancing district technology resources, curriculum, technology, professional development always occurs for our new staff. This is especially done during new teacher orientation, which occurs in August. Student use devices follow a replacement schedule that's set by the technology department. To give you an understanding, and at Jefferson, we now have one-to-one devices, so that goes all the way up through 12th grade. We get a new device in 5th grade, and that device is then turned in 8th grade, and they get a new device in 9th grade to carry in through the high school. All of our elementaries also have one-to-one. Those students do not take those devices home for obvious reasons. It's very difficult for them to take those to and from school every day and to remember to charge, and we certainly do not want to place that responsibility on parents every night. So staff device replacement schedule is in place and budgeted by the tech department. And then we do have, which is, in my opinion, unheard of, but it's fantastic. But St. Charles County does not have what we call a disaster recovery center for all of our tech needs, for all of our data needs. And we do have that in at 3800, our facility shop. That is, if we are ever compromised from a technological standpoint, we have backups immediately available, so student information is not compromised. We can back it up over there, and we do not lose. It has become very common practice in the world that we're living in now for education to get hit by hackers, and that usually comes with a significant cost to protect that information and to try to get that information recovered. So we wanted to avoid that, so that is in place. We do have it designed in a way where other St. Charles County schools can utilize that, obviously for a fee, if they so desire, because we are the only county school district right now that has that in place. So ongoing needs, going down here, we do have a bus fleet replacement cycle. We are 10-year leases for that. We are currently in year 6 of that. The reason we're on 10-year lease, there's a couple of reasons for it. From a financial standpoint, when we did that 10-year lease, obviously in this market that we're currently in, that was wasn't my decision, so I'm not taking credit, but that was a great decision because it costs so much in today's market to try to lease a bus in comparison to what it did 6 years ago. But we are on year 6, so when we say ongoing needs, that's something that we have to monitor and we have to manage and we have to budget for, knowing that we have 4 more years left with these buses. We cannot, in the state of Missouri, go beyond 10 years with buses. That is state legislation. They do not allow that. If you're in Arkansas, that's why you may see a lot of Missouri buses, because they do not have that, and they like to buy Missouri buses. Bond projects, construction, going forward with that, Hardin and Jefferson. That will be our focus once we finish some of the summer work and fall work that we have going on in the construction world. Focusing on community vendors interested in providing in-kind donations or labor materials for district maintenance projects. We've not really entertained or looked at that at this point in time, and it's not something that's been at the forefront for me. It is listed as a goal, so it is something that I do need to provide more attention to. Increase communication collaboration with emergency personnel to enhance safety and security measures. Officer Sanjaniti, standing in the back there, is one of our leading law enforcement personnel to help that charge for us. And like I said earlier, they will be attending additional training this summer to bring back to us and to educate us. Continued education and procedural changes to address safety and security. We're always looking at ways to enhance and improve. And it can be something as simple as we go through a drill, a scenario, and that certainly brings in questions or concerns, or it can be something like we just had at St. Charles High School where we responded in the manner that we did, and we recognized, hey, there's a couple of areas for improvement in this. So that's something that we're constantly talking about. Building and department safety committees to also focus on staff injuries related to workers' compensation trends. That's another area of focus, especially with the changing behavioral needs that we have with some of our student population. That is something that we need to continue to focus in on to make sure, one, that we're having safe learning environments, but also we want to protect our workers to the best of our abilities while protecting the financial interest of the district.
The silence means I think we're done with the presentation.
Great update, and
That's a lot of information. I
it
mean,
was a great update, but that's why we don't do all 5 on the same night.
That's right. It's a lot to take in, but it is a lot that we're doing, and we're sticking to that CSIP plan, which keeps us focused. So thank you
To
for
that point, we have at least one more year with it in our cycle. We will have a discussion about what it looks like. Obviously, we had a couple COVID years there that could delay the process of starting over, but we will look at that in the next year.
Do I have a motion to approve, to approve the, to approve the CSIP updates?
I move to approve the CSIP update as presented.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, that passes. We're ready for item 4.04. This is our calendar revision.
We did some great work with this with our committee, and then also got some really valuable, I feel like valuable information and feedback from our staff, our students, and also our families. So Dr. Lewis will lead us in this conversation.
Thank you. Chris, would you do me a favor and pull up elementary, middle, LC teacher calendar? And zoom it in just a little for us. Thank you, sir. That's perfect. Thank you. First and foremost, having a chance to work with the committee, ideally we work with our calendar committee every 2 years in October. And so it was different for us to work in March. However, I do want to thank the committee. I want to thank Heidi for being there and coming together and brainstorming, because while presenting the calendar can seem extremely simple, there's a lot of thoughts and opinions as it relates around the student and teacher calendar. But with that being said, the last 2 years, one of the things that drove us to reconvene in March was that, among other things, that the last 2 years, the board has approved 2 mental health days during winter break. And as a central office team, we felt that to continuously ask for that each year didn't make much sense. And maybe we come back together as a calendar committee to discuss what those 2 days would look like. So here's a few parameters. One, currently our students attend school 174 days a year, okay? And so in order to get those, but in the last 2 years, they've actually only attended school 172 days because the board has given us 2 mental health days, which we've all appreciated those days. So our goal was to now push the student calendar back to 172 days a year in order to do some of the things we were interested in. Another goal of ours was to maintain all employee work calendars, meaning if you're a teacher and you work 182 days, we have to continue to work 182 days. It cannot be 180 days, 181 days. If you are a 201 secretary, which means you work 201 days in the year, then you continuously work those 201 days. Another goal is to maintain 3 built-in snow days annually. And we also wanted to explore the possibility of adding a 2-week winter break without asking the board annually. And last but not least, the last 2 things is we wanted to look at ending the first semester at the high school level in December opposed to January, okay? And then last but not least, add an actual day in the calendar for our certified teachers to complete their annual Safe Schools training. I know that's a lot of information. Those are a few parameters, but that helped us build the calendar that's in front of you. So I wish I would, could show you all of the data, but let me also say it was overwhelming from students, teachers, and parents that we end the semester in December. So that was unanimous. But what we chose, so also while you're looking at this while you're looking at this projector, in August 15th, 16th, and 17th, that's the normal time teachers return to work for training, back in their schools to prepare, okay? So what we've done is that, remember I said that the work calendar for our employees, they have to maintain, but we've taken 2 student days away, okay? So if you look at now in red on the 14th, our teachers will come back on the 14th for training. They'll work the 15th, 16th, 17th, and then the 18th will be the day for their annual training, okay? That's August. In December, if you look at December, we are going to start winter break on Friday, the 22nd, and our parents, students, and half of the teachers that took the survey like this one. But I think we all find benefits of it. If you actually just look at the calendar, everything in gray is time away from school. So it's 2 weeks. It's basically 2 weeks, right? And that gives us that full 2-week winter break that the board has given us for the last couple of years. So in December, we have an ERD or early release on the 21st. We start winter break on the 22nd. Teachers would actually have a work day on the 5th, but students now come back on Monday, the 8th. Obviously, to finish, obviously, a lot of what I'm saying teacher, but we know that there are others that are impacted by this calendar. So, for example, a 254 calendar, which means that we're 254 days, our tech staff and our custodians, administrators such as myself and all of our central office team, 246 with principals, but we also have executive secretaries, et cetera, 183-day attendance secretaries, 201-day guidance secretaries. So our support staff has been impacted by the changes in this calendar. And so we sent a survey to our support staff. We listed 3 options, and we'll choose the option that fits the best with the changes here to our support staff, so the work calendar isn't modified or changed. Okay? That's all that I have.
Are there any questions for Rodney? Discussion?
I have a couple, just super quick
Please,
ones.
love
So the 2 days we were giving anyway was
Yeah.
partially because we were over what we needed to.
That is
complete.
correct,
So
yes.
this net change is basically, we're at where we were. So we haven't lost
What
it.
we've been doing the last few years, yes. But let me also say this, while you bring that up, if you really look at it, what we didn't do in the previous years, hey, Chris, would you go back to that, please? So in the past, well, at least the last 2 years, we've just given the days, zoom up to December. We've given the days in December, so we would be out 2 days earlier. But we took those 2 days, if you will, again, because the work calendar didn't change, and just moved them over to August for the teacher workday, and that's how we get that full week. So I just wanted to highlight
Gotcha.
just the sliding scale.
And that,
Yes.
like you said, that covers too, like we talked, I guess, beginning of this year, the additional hours of training and stuff that we had.
100%, yes.
Good stuff. And then ending the semester in December means testing in December, not January?
Do you mean finals?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
That's good.
That's it for me then.
All right.
Thank you.
Go. Any other questions? Thank you.
Oh, I had one random one. Why
Yeah.
does 2 elementary schools start at 8:05 and the rest of them start at 8:50?
Because we're on 3 tiers.
Okay. That's fair. I was just curious. I was like, why?
Yeah, it's just the way that it is.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. that makes
Yeah,
sense. I
3
was just
tiers of
curious.
buses.
Just curious. I saw it. So why?
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the calendar revisions? Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That calendar revision passes. All right, item 6.01. Excuse me. I'm sorry, 5.01. This is our time to certify the election results. The election results on April 4th of 2023 are available. They're technically unofficial until April 14th. But as a board, we need to certify those results. Do I have a motion to certify the results?
I move that we certify the results of the election of April 4th, 2023.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the election results have been certified. Item 5.02, this is kind of a long process, but this is every year, the board we dissolve the board, the current 22-23 board. I always read this part for you. You can get it larger if you want to, but Missouri law requires the Board of Education to elect new officers each year in April. Board officers elected during the reorganization portion of tonight's meeting will serve until April 2024. To accomplish this, the board will adjourn, sign, die, after allowing the currently seated board to complete all scheduled old business. This will ensure that new board members are not asked to vote on issues for which they have not been fully prepared. By adjourning, sign, die, or without day, the board, as it currently exists, will be adjourned for the last time. During this adjournment, newly elected board members will be administered the oath of office by the current board secretary, thereby excusing retiring board members. A new president of the Board of Education, as well as other board offices, will be elected. While adjourned, sign, die, the secretary of the board or his appointee will chair the first portion of the meeting. The chair will take nominations for the office of president. All nominations will then be voted on in the order received. Should any nominee receive votes from a majority of the board, the election process will cease, and that person will be seated as president. The person elected president will then continue the organizational meeting, and the remaining officers will be elected. After all officers have been elected, the new board will reconvene the regular meeting and begin scheduled new business. Although this process may require a little additional time to implement, this procedure will provide for an orderly transition between existing and newly elected Board of Education. Do I have a motion to dissolve the 22-23 Board of Education?
I make a motion to dissolve the 22-23 Board of Education.
And do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The board is dissolved. Item 6.01 and 6.02 will now be handled by the board secretary, Kelly Pendleton. You don't have a mic, though. Oh, you do have a mic.
Karen and Brian, if you want to step up to the microphone together. Okay, I'll read a few words and then you can just repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the, sorry.
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director
in and for the St. Charles R6 School District,
in and for the St. Charles R6 School District,
County of St. Charles,
County of St. Charles,
State of Missouri,
State of Missouri,
to the best of my ability according to law.
to the best of my ability according to law.
Okay, you can sign those and then turn those in to me after.
Just want to get a picture of our new members real quick.
Of me? Well, I'm not that new.
Lori, you want, you,
No, I'll wait. I'm not that new.
We're going to have to get a taller podium.
the meeting, our meeting was taking a little long, so I know Brian's saying he had to leave, so sorry about that.
Okay.
Do they, introduce real quick who they brought with them?
Sure.
Brian, you want to tell us who's here? Sorry. Yeah, I know they left, but.
Yep, I'll just turn it on. Hey, hello, boys. My mother was actually here with my two sons. My wife couldn't be here. She planned something 6 months ago and just happened to fall in the state. So they were both here tonight, or those three were here to support tonight. And
Hi, Karen O'Hearn, this is my husband Patrick, my grandson John Redmond, my daughter Julie, my granddaughter Margaret, and my granddaughter Elle, and my son-in-law Josh Meunier. Those are the men.
Do them all, Annie. Chris, why don't you do one about the building?
Yeah, they are.
Consent agenda. When we get to the consent agenda.
Congratulations.
Well, I thought we were gonna nominate. No, I wouldn't, no, I have to wait. Yes, I'll wait till consent. Okay.
Before we continue with the election of officers, if any people are tired of sitting and have been here for that swearing in, then you're welcome to leave. We don't want to make you keep staying, so we're going to take a break if you want to.
Yep. Oh, we are?
Yeah.
So we're gonna, Donna, we're gonna take a break?
We're going to take a 5-minute break. because we
I'll
have
take
to
the
do
elevator.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
She needs to take a picture when it's an official kind of a placard. Now I'm 4'9". When I was standing, I had to say, this is never going to happen again. We all do. Well, I was always 4'11", but as age compresses, I've lost 2 inches. Yeah, I hope I'm not going to. Yeah, people see, I have a car seat cushion. I do have a cushion. And the car seat has to go so far out that if that airbag ever had to deploy, it probably would kill me. I mean, I'm so close to the steering wheel in order for my feet to reach the pedal. So.
You might notice I'm not that much taller than you sitting down. I'm very short.
Oh.
And I need to get a
I have a, it's a Velcro kind of thing. It just fits around and then oh, I got it on Amazon. It was called, I think they just called them seat belts.
I had ordered the same dress in yellow, and then everybody was picking out the ring, and like, I don't even love that. So I ordered it.
What did we take?
I returned it on Amazon. I'm like, $30. That was really cute.
Oh,
You get old. You go to the bathroom all the time.
I'm right behind you.
hey, Karen? She needs to have a computer. Does she? I'm not gonna worry about it. Do you need your computer? You can do it from the paper. Okay. Don't ever make me sit on this thing again. My seat gets stuck on it. You're the one that's always sitting in this thing. How do you maneuver around it? Okay. Oh, I thought it was just a church group or something.
Yeah, I think they're in support.
Well, he wasn't in the picture.
No, but I think
Oh,
that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Wow.
Mic on. I will, and I'll complain about the time.
And Leslie's name is here. Leslie's getting you with a winter coat.
You ready to roll it? Oh, I'll just, okay. We'll continue on with our reorganization. Kelly? Item 6.02.
I will now open up nominations for election of school board president for the 2023-24 for residing currently and into the 23-24 school year. Open up nominations for board president. I recognize hands for nominations at this time. Heidi?
I nominate Donna Towers for president.
I second.
Are there any further nominations? Okay, we will go ahead and cease nominations then, and we will take a roll call vote for the nomination of Donna Towers as the board president. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the
Nomination for
nomination of
Donna
Donna
Towers as
Towers.
board president. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Gibson?
Aye.
Hewitt?
Aye.
Sigma?
Aye.
Towers?
Aye.
O'Hairn?
Aye.
O'Meara?
Aye.
And Zaire.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, I think. We're ready for item 6.03. And this is nominations for vice president for the school, for the term of 2023-24. Do I have nominations for vice president? Lori?
I nominate Heidi Sigma for vice president.
Are there any other nominations? Do I have a motion to cease nominations?
I move we cease nominations.
A second?
I second.
All those in favor of nominations ceasing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we need a roll call vote.
Aye.
Hewitt?
Aye.
Sigma? Aye. Zaire?
Aye.
O'Meara?
Aye.
O'Hairn? Aye. Towers?
Aye. We have an operating school board now. We will now continue with our meeting. Thank you all. We have our team back in place. Item 7.01 is the consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the amended consent? We already approved it, didn't we? I'm sorry, we approved the consent. No.
We didn't, we approved
pulled the
moving
item.
it.
Right.
I move to approve the modified consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved, and we did pull out item 7.06. These are the job descriptions, and Ellen, you asked to pull those out.
The reason I asked to pull them out is so we could discuss them. I firmly believe that you fund your priorities, and you haven't convinced me of the need for this position. It would be non-student facing, and we're in a period of decreasing enrollment, and we have no idea what the state is going to do with funding or with rules. And it's hard to eliminate a position once you approve it. And I'm frankly afraid that it will increase the non-instructional workload for educators. And the fact that you're already getting the equivalent of a half a person in the C&I department with the changes that, and I fully support those changes. The 3 curriculum specialists will be full year, so that's 2 months apiece. And so, I have a master's degree in teaching and learning, and so I know the importance of assessment in education, but I'm not sure that we should be placing so much of our resources on assessment. And, it's like, well, part of me wanted to just go ahead and approve the job descriptions. But I'm talking about the data analysis. So that's all I have to say.
Dr.
I'll certainly start. I will say thank you for sharing your comments and your concerns with that, and I think those are valid concerns. I think when we look at our current makeup of our CNI department and what it is that we are lacking, it is someone who is fully dedicated to data assessment and assessment. Right now, it's piecemeal together through other positions. And so when that happens, we have things that sometimes fall through the crack, as we saw with our CCR, and what we saw with having those 50 students miss taking an assessment and cost us some points. And I think it is my hope that adding this position will make the job of teachers easier, because right now what we don't have is alignment of assessments. We have classroom assessments that get developed. We have common formative assessments and common summative assessments that get developed by PLCs. We have benchmarking assessments, and we have standardized assessments like a EOC, a MAP test, a ACT. And in my opinion, this is my first year in this role, coming in, I'm not seeing the alignment. We're missing the alignment. Our test scores shouldn't be a surprise to us. They shouldn't be. Our standardized test scores shouldn't be a surprise to us. We should know what it is our students are struggling with based on just even the classroom level assessments. And I think adding this position, my goal is not only to look at those big items like MAP test data and EOC data and things like that, but to also, when we write curriculum, being in the curriculum writing process with teachers and developing those assessments during that curriculum writing time so that it's not a surprise, so that we will see, in my opinion, that alignment of assessments. We know that MSIP 6, there are so many new expectations placed on districts, and right now we're just not fully staffed for that. Certainly, we will figure out, if it's not approved, we will figure out a way to move forward and make that happen. But when I looked at surrounding districts and what every district around us has, they all have somebody who's dedicated to data assessment and learning. And so I sent that to the board and kind of showed you that there are 4 districts in our area that don't have that position currently. Us, St. Charles School District, Orchard Farm, Afton School District, and Hancock Place. Every other district around the area has someone who is solely dedicated to data and assessment.
And out of those 4, we are the largest school district out of those 4.
We are.
So you think with this position, we just went through a presentation going through a lot of data and stuff. Is this position going to help with, I guess, that presentation for it not to be kind of cobbled together and be more?
Absolutely. So yes, this person will have a huge role in MSIP 6 process. That will be a large responsibility of theirs, but not the only responsibility of theirs is to manage MSIP 6, but it will.
This position is going to affect the whole school district.
So
I mean,
it's a quantifiable tie-in to our MSIPs.
Oh, it's direct.
Absolutely.
We're at 77% with the stuff that moved, and we think this will help us.
I think so, because part of this will be to help with strategies for increasing attendance and some of our processes that we have in place, and maybe inconsistent processes that we have in place from building to building to help shore that up as well.
And more so than ever, sorry. The MSIP 6, there are a lot of points out there that we have to be more strategic in getting. They're just not automatic points anymore. And so we have seen other districts, our perception of watching other districts with the right person. This is going to this is a very specific oriented position. So, and we think we can find that person, but we've seen some other school districts be able to take, and granted, be the MSIP 5, but then also MSIP 6, and see them being more strategic with this process. And it's, for us, at this point, we're not bringing wants to you, we're bringing necessities to you. And if
It's something we've talked about
and
in
again,
great deal.
as Earl said, if it's not approved, and I totally understand the concerns, then we'll make do, work with what we have. But we're not asking, we will not come and ask for just once or just, oh, this is nice to have. We feel like this is a necessity at this point for us to move forward and get to where we need to in our MSIP 6.
Okay, I will say that the first I heard of it was like 2 weeks ago in a board update. So the,
I don't know when I've heard of it. I know I'm aware of it, and I knew this was thought of. I'm also aware of other districts. I have children who are in other districts, and as they talk about their roles and their jobs, they, not by name or anything, but they're always talking about, they have someone, an assessment, data kind of person who helps them understand and hone in on things. And it is more coordinated, cohesive kind of a thing. And I'm not saying ours is piecemealed, but it seems like this is the piece that would kind of put everything together. So
When you talk attendance, are you also talking graduation rate?
Oh, everything.
Oh, great, yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
there's a whole systematic piece of
There is.
how are we tracking attendance? How are we even putting attendance into the system? I mean, there's a lot to that that we're just missing because we don't have somebody who specifically can get. I mean, we're not just talking about that assessment piece. It's just there's a lot to this. And if again, Earl got here he started in July, and we've been talking it since July. So if there was a timing on my part and not brought it up earlier, I apologize. But it's been something we've been talking about here for a while,
So
moving
it
forward.
is something that would directly benefit all students are affected, as well as possibly helping teachers take things off of their
Yeah,
plate.
this position is going to affect
Everybody.
Yeah, and again, I
That
will
is the
say
goal.
this.
That is the goal.
It
of this
is a
position.
very specific, skilled set we're looking for. This is not just throw somebody in this position. This is, and not that we would do that in any position, but this is,
Our
as-
neighbors have like data gurus, that are working these positions.
and they have been the missing link in these, in our perception.
So it helps us with some points. I mean, that transcends too to special needs students and.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
well,
But I also understand the concerns, so.
We do.
well, how will you measure the success,
Yeah. effectiveness,
of,
Well, the success of the position.
yeah.
I think when we're going into rewrites and we're starting to see that alignment, we're starting to see what's happening at the classroom level, match what's happening on our Galileo benchmark assessments. We're starting to increase the level of rigor on some of those assessments, which will in turn start to increase our student achievement scores. That's what I would measure as success for that. We start at the classroom level and work our way up to be able to see those changes. And then some of the easy gains or the quick gains are some of the things that we'll see out of MSIP, that we're not losing points on some of those trivial little gotchas that I felt like got us this year.
4 points for.
But it
not
starts
doing
with,
Right.
that, and we always
Exactly.
have talked about this CSIP and for 5 years now, that systematic approach. That's what we're starting with. And so when we start seeing that, I think we'll see results. And you can't chase test scores, but what you can focus in on is student growth. And we need to ensure that, so.
Okay, you've convinced me.
Yeah, I'm not unfamiliar with data and metrics and stuff we have too. It's great to have the information, but it does take something unique to dissect it, to turn it into meaningful information. Because you can look at a chart and be like, oh gee, 77%.
Exactly. We are data
wish
rich
we
as a
could be better.
district. We have a lot of
We're
data.
wanting to use this role as turning that data instead of just a talking point into effective action that we can
And
implement
practices.
based
And it's gonna,
Absolutely.
again, that's one person's not gonna change our whole district.
Sure.
Because our teachers do the work.
Yep.
His CNI team and the people we're getting placed in there are all gonna be a part of. This is just another cog of that we really feel like it puts us to the next level.
I think it's important to point out too, a lot of the positions around the area, when we're talking about these, are directors and executive directors and assistant superintendents.
And we're not talking about a coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the ELL leader position. How many schools have, how many people are you proposing to put in the position of ELL leader?
So that one, so that's in a unique situation. So we are seeing an increase in our ELL population, and we are seeing a shift, really, more towards the west side of our district, which we haven't had before. Our Harris numbers really exploded over the past couple of years with our ELL population. And so we have a unique situation where we are, for the first time, overstaffed at St. Charles High. We have 2 ELL positions, and we really only need 1. And so my thought process was, there's so many different components to ELL, and if you look at our attendance rate, and if you look at our graduation rate, our lowest are our ELL population students and our Latino Hispanic students. A lot of that is because when our students transfer in high school, especially at the high school level, and they're coming from another country, the credits are wonky. The credits don't align with ours at all. Sometimes they haven't been in school. And so we end up putting them into our system. And what happens is they end up finding jobs and things like that and dropping out. And so what I would like with this ELL lead is to teach part of the day, and the other half of the day be able to focus on the leadership of that and help coordinating and coming up with strategic plans when we have students who come to us from other countries, looking at those transcripts, dissecting those transcripts to see how that aligns to what it is we offer, and then putting them on a track to graduate, a 3-year plan, a 4-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year graduation plan. Also, there's lots of paperwork that comes along with that. There's testing that we have to administer and coordinating with, if we get the data of an assessment person, coordinating with them to make sure that our testing practices align for those, the WIDA assessment is what that's called. So this position would not be, it will be adding the title,
Right.
but it will not be adding a new position. We're going to take that extra position to create this.
Okay, and that one leader over all the ELL?
Oh,
Okay, that
district-wide.
wasn't clear to me.
Yes.
And then the next was special ed, and that was
Yeah,
added
so
in there. They're going to be full year?
12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to clarify that, these are great questions, by the way. To clarify that, and I'm not speaking for Dr. Lewis, but I will say this, the changes in that job description, since it's not a new position, not necessarily had to come to you all, but they got in there, which is fine. But I want to clarify so nobody thinks we're, because you've already said it, which is great. But that's the special ed coordinators and also then the CNI specialists. And that's been, and we're working through all that. But now, if you haven't approved it yet, but if you approve this position, that we're talking about 6 positions there that all need to get on the same page with 12 months and also the same title of coordinators. And then we've kind of paid them all differently, and we need to shore all that up. So that's what's happening with that. So I didn't want anybody to think, oh, we slid in SPED, but not CNI. SPED really didn't have to go in there because they're not new positions, but it gave you an opportunity to see what it looks like. And then we'll do the same thing with the CNI specialists going to coordinators. So, and they're just going to 12-month. So, great questions.
I can make a motion if you would like.
Yeah, do we have a motion to approve that job descriptions?
I move we approve the job descriptions.
Is the second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The job descriptions? Yep. Oh. Oh, okay. You push your little button on.
Yeah, I didn't know we were making this decision here. I'm uneducated, and it sounds great, but I can't say yay to something I don't fully understand yet. So I didn't know we were voting on that. So that's the reason I'm voting. I just don't fully understand yet.
You can abstain, but.
Or vote nay, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of thrown in right away with
Well, and that's a great point, because so some of the things, and we apologize, as I wish your mom could have been here. I know the boys wanted to go, but that's why some of that old business was done, because you guys haven't been a part of that. So, but some of this, as we move forward, will affect you all, and we want you to be a part of it. So, but that's certainly okay, so, all right. I just want to make sure that we saw that, so.
You know, and just another side comment, because I don't know if I can or not, but I'm so old, and I've been on this for so long, that I'm not happy, but I'm so proud or happy to see that Earl and Rodney and Julie, Jason, all of you, we just don't every year, you know, change the calendar a day. We don't just keeping the same old stuff and moving along and just changing wording or changing a date. I love that you're bringing in these ideas. Oh, Jeremy, I didn't put you in that mix. But you're bringing in these good ideas too, so
Financial reports are coming up.
yeah. But I just see that you are delving into these things and making sometimes small changes, sometimes, but it's making us all for the better, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Donna. I would say two things. One, there's always a constant reflection in all of our departments to constantly improve. Like, from an HR standpoint, there's always thinking like, how can our HR team be better to serve our teachers who can be better to serve? Well, now, let me take that back. Not just teachers, but all staff, just all staff. And then there's always the feedback from the staff, right? There's always feedback from our employees, such as like the calendar committee, among other things, just trying to get pieces of feedback. We would love to do everything, you know, our staff would like us to do, but, you know, there comes a point where, you know, we have to make a decision. But every year, it's not just turning over a new page or just adding a new date here and there and asking for the rubber stamp. It's making a concerted effort to when we notice a gap, or in many ways to look for a gap, okay, what's not working here, such as what Earl is doing in this situation. What's not working? How can we attempt to fill a gap and fill a deficit in our district to support our staff and our students? So I appreciate that. That is something that we do every day of every year, all day long, and Jason's constantly doing it. We're all doing it. It's almost like a bunker at times where we sit and when we see a problem, try to quickly find a solution that makes sense, right? Not just to bring you something, but it actually makes sense, and that we've thought it over and delved it over, and we've talked to our union representation. We've just tried to be as thorough as possible. We're not perfect, but we definitely attempt to do as you just described.
And then that includes, I'll say, is the conversation and the discussions and the questions that you have. That's all part of the process, so we appreciate that.
We got a great team. All right, moving this slow meeting along. I'm sorry. Well, I interrupted. Item 7.07, no, I'm sorry, we did that. I had to jump down to, thank you. I lost track of my numbers. We're ready for item 9.01. This is our community education and adult education review.
Yeah, we would like to invite Dr. Steve Smith up to discuss the programming for community and adult education. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
There we go. Good evening. Thanks for having me. Welcome back to Ms. Gibson, and welcome to our two new board members. Feel free to stop by Lewis and Clark, all of you, as a matter of fact, come over, tour one of the, in my opinion, the best of the 55 career and technical facilities in the state of Missouri. But I'm here to talk about adult and community education, which does fall under the umbrella of Lewis and Clark. We are self-funded for the most part, so the money that we raise in adult ed, or the money that is brought in as revenue supports all the programming. So we run a pretty lean staff. And you'll see looking through this that we have about 300 adult learning classes each semester, and about 50% of those are coming from the 63301 and 03 zip codes. We have transitioned over the past few years. We did do some supplemental things to kind of differentiate ourselves with income. Some of that focused on childcare in the summer times. We kind of put that to the wayside and focused more on the adult aspect of that with the trades. Before I get too far into this and forget, I do want to give credit where it's due. I just kind of sign things for them, and I meet with the staff in there weekly, and I come to things like this. But adult ed as a whole would not function without Stephanie Collins, Mary Ellman, Sarah Steinbrugge, and Jesse Skeen. They are a very it's just the four of them, really. I mean, there's five of us, but the day-to-day operations are handled by them. They do an excellent job. They got us through the pandemic. They've switched things around to keep revenue coming in. They've just done an outstanding job.
They really have. I want to.
Yeah, they make me look good. They make the programming, they make it look very easy, but they do work very hard. We have transitioned then over the past couple of years to more focus on the trades. We have seen, for instance, if you look at our fast facts, our revenue stream, EMT is far and away our biggest revenue stream. Welding, HVAC, those are programs that we are continually adding instructors for. We've run from one instructor to two in the evening. We have brought in people from all of our local industries to come in there. We do our workforce development, which is on the second page of this. And it's really just, it's blown up our programming. We do work with the state's Missouri One Start program. We are one of 16 local educational agencies that essentially we get money from the state to provide customized training for businesses in the area. So the district is paid about a 15% administrative fee. So essentially we'll have people coming in, they'll take classes, and we administer those. Some of that, like even we've got maintenance guys within our district. They've come in and they've taken welding classes just so they can learn how to do something a little better in their job capacity here in the school district. The goal of that is to address community-wide personal and professional educational needs and interests. We also focus a lot on just people wanting to come in and expand their horizons. So it's not all about the trades or EMT or kids going out in those areas. We also have classes that might deal with painting or learning how to use your iPhone. We do a free tax service. Well, we facilitate the use of a free tax service every year. So our building is used every Saturday during most of the tax season for residents to come in and use the people that we bring in to help with taxes. In terms of outreach moving forward, we are in the process right now. We've been meeting with representatives of Orchard Farm, Francis House School District, trying to get a collaboration going with our EMT program. EMT, firefighting, those are popular programs now. They're filling up fast across the state. There is a need for those. And it's what we are trying to do is essentially create a program where you could have high school kids coming in, if they're not credit deficient, coming into an EMT program at an early age. So they could come in maybe as a senior in high school. They would be able to kind of forego sometime at their home school, be it St. Charles, Francis Howell, or Orchard Farm. Those are the three right now. And they could come in and join that EMT program. The goal then further down the line would be to hopefully add that on as a full program at Lewis and Clark. So a few years ago, 2 years ago, we added law enforcement. That is, it's really grown. It's full. We cannot, it's one of our most popular programs. And so the goal would be then to try and do something like that with EMT. So, we start with the adult ed piece of it, and then that kind of blossoms into the regular programming at Lewis and Clark. On our fast fact sheet, just briefly, you can see that we've got really four major areas of programming. That has changed again over the years. You can see the statistics there. We are really focused on the career training aspect. Some of our Lewis and Clark instructors, they stay on during the evening. They teach those evening courses. Some of them they let others come in and use their classrooms, and we figure out the logistics of that. You can see our registrations down at the bottom, kind of where we took our COVID hit, and then over on the right-hand side, Our top 10 classes in 2021 and 21 and 22 by revenue. Any questions? All right. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to it.
You know, and I know this meeting's gone a little slow, sorry, but I will tell you this, and and you guys know I always say, we have a great staff, we do these things, but not every district has these type of programs. And to be able to continue to reach out and have things for our district to come, or the community to come in and be educated and be trained, and I think the key there, and you said it, but I want to make sure that it's highlighted, you all have pivoted these, you know, what's important out there in terms of the jobs or the training and things, you've pivoted to meet those needs. It's great to say we have an adult education program, but if they're not meeting the community's needs of what they need for education or for training purposes, then why are we doing it? And so it's kudos to you all and to our staff that we continue to have this, because not a lot of districts have this anymore. It's pretty neat, so, great
Jason,
job, Steve.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Well, prior to me being on the board years ago, I mean, I worked for the program. I did I covered out the gym, okay, as the theater, but I taught kids programs once every Saturday, and we put on plays and that. I did that about 3 or 4 years. Then I had to give it up when I became a board member.
Well, that actually that's another aspect of it, is we do utilize all the facilities, the administrators and all the buildings. They've been wonderful when we say, hey, can we borrow this room at Jefferson or this room at St. Charles West to use. So it gives community members an opportunity to get into the buildings, see what's going on there, and take some classes in the process.
And one last side note, because I haven't forgotten this, but since I've been here, because I was at HR before in Roddy's position, and I directly supervised Lewis and Clark in that role, and we actually had, speaking of positions, we actually had a director that was specifically over adult education, and when that person retired, we actually said we can pivot and basically, because Steve is our assistant director at Lewis and Clark, and again, it's an umbrella over that, but we basically said, here, Steve, here's an extra program, didn't we? And you've just taken it over, done a great job, so I know you get kudos to your staff, but I also want to make sure I say that, because I haven't forgotten that, so. Great job, thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Just keep putting that workload on. All right, thank you for the presentation. Do I have a motion to approve the community education, adult education presentation?
I'll move to approve the community ed, adult ed program review as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 9.02, this is a program review of our financial planning. I'm guessing that this is.
That is correct, Dr. Towers. This is something the board looks at every year and gives approval on every year. Really, it comes down to what we had discussed previously when we looked at bringing on MOCAT as a security advisor for our operating funds. So currently, we have MOSIP that we put our bond funds into and receive revenue back from those funds over the course of the bond. To give you an idea, it's in the board and financial reports every month. But we also have partnered now with board approval, I think it was 2 months ago, with MOCAT. And really what we'd be looking at there is investing some of our operating funds, that would be from funds 1 and 2, to see if that aligns with our practices. Obviously, it has to meet the three areas provided by state statute, which is it safe, is there liquidity involved, and these two organizations that we have, MOSIP and MOCAT, meet all of those state regulations and all those state guidelines. And obviously, they would have to follow what's in our board language, which is standard for every state institution, school district, and that's basically what you would be approving here.
It's a policy, right, that we're approving. There's fundamentally no changes, though, from what?
Correct. There's absolutely no changes from what we've been doing for a decade or more.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the financial planning investment?
I move to approve the financial planning and investment of surplus funds program review as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item 10.01, the MSBA delegate, that's currently,
I move to elect Ellen Zayer as the MSBA delegate for the 23-24 school year.
do I have a second?
I second.
Boy, we can't be passing up.
I like it.
All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Ellen. We also have an alternate delegate. Who is our alternate?
I am the current alternate. As a
Well,
form of like new board members. We have two though. So who do you pick from? It's like new member thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
We do eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Karen's thing's on. I move to elect Karen O'Hearn as the MSBA alternate
I
delegate.
second.
I'm fine with that. I don't even know what it is. I'm fine with it.
Nobody even knew that I was the delegate. So there's not a ton involved.
You can have as many duties as you like.
Oh,
I
I'm
think-
sure, I'm sure.
I think you have to drive Ellen
Yeah.
to Jeff's tree.
I have the time.
All right, we do have a motion to approve Karen as our alternate MSBA alternate. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations,
You're up
Karen.
I'm so honored.
Thank you. Item.
This-
Item 10.03, this is the preliminary tax rate. So I'm going back to Jeremy.
Mr. Shields is gonna finish us up here.
Coming back.
Yeah.
All right, so every reassessment year, the district is required to do a non-binding tax rate that has to be approved by the school board. So the key word is non-binding, because the assessed valuation isn't set at this point in time. It's just projected. So right now, if you see up there, if we don't do this by the date in April, we have to reduce our tax rate by 20%. And we certainly do not want to do that as we're approving a few more additions to our staff. So we want to get through this, but I also want to kind of give you guys a little bit of information. So it's preliminary tax information. It came out to us in March by the assessor's office. We do not get an updated one until July. And the updated one is not, the first one is the beginning of July, but then there is another one that goes through the Board of Equalization that confirms what that rate is. So when we start talking about budgeting for the 23-24 school year, we go off of this projected rate. So if you want to go down from there, Chris, appreciate it. Preliminary assessed value indicates a 15.15% increase in certification since last August. And that's because of the real estate assessed valuation that we're in this odd year. So just from last March, it was 17%. So you see the incredible increase that the county has undergone, which is great if you're looking to sell, right? Not if you're looking to buy necessarily. So, but that's what they're going off of. So computations are based on assessed valuations, tax rate, and the consumer price index, which is also extremely high from historical trends. So saying all of that, everything is high right now, including inflation, which is causing that CPI to be incredibly high as well. So what we had as a tax rate last year, when we finally settled, we will have about a 40% reduction this year. But I want to be very clear, that does not mean taxes go down. It just means that we cannot collect a windfall of revenue as a school district because taxpayers are protected in the Hancock Amendment from that occurring. So we cannot grow our revenue more than 5% in any given year. That's a state protection. So when we go through the formula through the state auditor's office, when I go through that, it means that as of right now, just from the projection, I want to be very clear, and it's non-binding, it is a reduced rate of 40 cents, okay? And then you can see underneath that what that would look like for 2023 calendar year for the tax rates. And you see the general fund, which is our Fund 1, the teacher's fund, which is Fund 2. We will decrease both of those, and we will also decrease that capital fund. We are not able to decrease that debt service fund at this point in time. The only way that we would reduce that is if we are growing that revenue in that fund so much that we are exceeding our premium and our principal and interest payments for that given year by double, basically. And we're not considering that at this point in time, but we are looking at that just in case. So again, a lot of that could get determined in July. It's not getting determined right now. So we will decrease those, but that does not mean we have a decrease in revenue, even though with a 40% decrease, because of those large gains in reassessed valuation and those large gains in CPI. That does mean our revenue does grow, but it is below that 5% mark, just to be very clear. So what I turn in to the collector's office would be a 4.5427 tax rate for the year, and you see what it was previously with a 4.9495. So the other thing I think that I believe could make a difference in July is when we look at those personal property tax rates, they stay the exact same on this projection. I don't know if it will stay the exact same by the time July rolls around. And that's taking away any new state legislation. That's just saying that the market is dipping in that area. So I've talked to some, and they say, well, just project 10% less than what's currently being assessed. So when we look at our budget, that's probably an area that I will focus in on. That way we are a bit conservative in what our spending looks like and our revenues, just to be very clear.
So we're decreasing, but we're not decreasing.
Correct.
We're essentially staying the
And-
exact. I mean, I'm
and-
always all for lower taxes, especially
Absolutely.
whenever taxes are higher everywhere, but this fundamentally is a wash that we're gonna have to change at least 2 more times probably anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I went through the last 10 years and said, okay, what has happened from that March projection to that August projection? It ranges anywhere from a 4-cent difference to like a 0.005 of a cent difference.
So we're gonna be pretty close.
I would assume we're going to be pretty close based on that trend, but we are undergoing some trend. We're undergoing a period of time that's not, we don't really have any trends for.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the preliminary
I
and
move-
non-binding?
Oh, yeah. I move to approve the preliminary tax rate as presented.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The tax rate is approved. Item 10.04, Harris Playground bid.
Yeah,
Jeremy?
so first of all, Board, I did want to change a little bit on how we advertise our bids a little bit to you all, just to give you a better idea. So this is something I just toyed around with, put it in this board notes, but with your feedback, I'd like to include that. If there's something that you want to change with this memo, I'm certainly open to any suggestions. So really what this comes down to is we met with a member of the PTO at Harris, and they were very passionate about their playground, and with good cause, good reason. And as I dug a little bit deeper and tried to get a better understanding, a better grasp of what Harris needed for their student population, which is one of our largest elementary schools, it did concern me a little bit that were some areas in that playground that will become compliance concerns for us in the future. Not currently, to be very clear. And that's a lot of surfacing where the slides come out to the curbing, areas like that. So we wanted to do it right, and we know that Harris has not received a lot of bond spending at this point in time. As I'd mentioned in the previous report, that they had a few areas that we were completely eliminating because it wasn't high needs in comparison to other buildings. So we wanted to see what some playground renewals would cost us. So we went out for bid for this, and we are recommending the low bid of $152,742 for two playgrounds in particular at Harris Elementary, southeast playground, and then a southern playground for that property location. And design is included in the bid, but we obviously got the building administrator, we had the PTO involved, and I had Scott Bennett, who is running our facilities right now, involved in this, just to make sure that we were doing it correctly. So that's the proposal for this.
And that sounds like a lot of money, but playgrounds are really expensive.
Unfortunately, yeah.
They have been for almost ever, I think. I just wanted to note that, because that's,
Of course, it's me, because I always have questions. So you want feedback on this? I love it. I think it's really good. We've gone from, I think, having one little, like, bullet point of the amount of money to having a template with a lot of attachments, so I like this. One good, helpful thing could be if we had a budgeted item, what the budget actually was, so we could see the comparison between the two. Couple questions. First one, was this in our bond projects at all, or are we adding it in because of feedback?
Adding it in because of feedback. And what I have determined, along with Director of Facilities and the building administrator, as concerns on their end. So I would like this included with bond money.
it's out of necessity, I mean, right?
So yeah, when is the compliance
might-
concerns, I guess?
Within the year?
Within a year? So
Yes.
we're gonna have to do this one way or another.
Correct.
Am I misspeaking on that?
No, you're not.
Okay, I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
No, you're good.
Okay.
So it's high needs, I guess, in comparison for other stuff, Well, especially when we're talking about all the other ones we have, and we've got a high press box coming up, which I'm gonna bet is probably the same amount of money, because we're playing Monopoly.
Sorry, it's, that, I'm
That,
speaking for you, but that amount's crazy too. But
That's a hazard.
can I just say
Yeah,
that
right.
thing, like, we don't want that, we don't
Yeah.
want it to fall.
Oh, I agree with you, but I'm saying, like,
I mean, it's-
I was trying not to use that language.
I just did.
And I know. But that's why you're in that seat and I'm in this seat, you know?
Well, and clear, I mean, I'll back that up with saying this. This fall, our maintenance department did a great job of coming in and fortifying all that, so we could safely use it this year. Moving forward, we've got to get that replaced.
So is it replacing, I'm familiar with Harris, I went to Harris. Is it replacing the playgrounds that are there with new ones, or is it adding additional?
It's replacing what we currently have. So we have to get rid of that current equipment because it will not be compliant. And there was a few pieces of equipment that were purchased, but are probably not commercially grade. So we don't even know when they were purchased because we're new in our positions. So
Is it the gray, is it the green one, or is it the gray one? Because either way, I'm lucky to be alive, I guess.
it's one nearest the baseball field,
Oh, yeah, the green one, got
a
it.
swing set.
Okay, awesome, good stuff. So, I mean, we can't question the need for it, I guess, right? And maybe it's something that we missed as a part of maybe the potential bond projects for stuff. So it's all treated as overrun from a budget anyway, where we have a little bit of cushion. So this is some of the hope for the cushion of digesting the inflation costs plus potentially adding things in like this?
Correct. And I should have mentioned that in the CSIP report, we mentioned that asset management.
Yep.
That would catch this.
Okay.
So we wouldn't, hopefully, it lessens the potential for us encountering an issue like this in the future.
Yeah, because we certainly don't want to pay $152,000 for equipment.
Huh?
We don't, I'm not excited about, I think it's great that we're getting a new
Yeah.
playground, but like, this is not the time we want to be doing that if we
Sure.
didn't have to. But
Yeah, really the time.
does that make sense?
It does make sense.
And again, Harris, I'm glad you're getting a new playground equipment, and it's safe, but to your point, this is something that we hope, we didn't want to do,
Yeah, I mean, we would like to, obviously, it comes with board
but
approval.
we need to.
Is it gonna put, well, we don't know. Is it gonna is there any other projects that this might bump out of what we might be able to do
At this
that are gonna
time,
be more needs?
right, at this time, no.
But who knows?
But I say that we don't know we don't have an anticipation of what change orders could look like on some of these larger projects. And larger project change orders can come very rapidly when the contractors are coming to us and saying, we hit an unknown. That's why I say that, but I say it very cautiously because I don't want to mislead anyone on the board.
Well, and tell me if I'm wrong, but with inflation and things, we've already updated and revised some of the plans, and so we've kind of backed it up already a little bit, but hopefully we can absorb it, so.
I am for it, right? We have to have a playground for our kids that's safe. I don't like it in its current format because of the winning bidder. We go by lowest bidder, that's what's in our policy. But in our own policy too, we have preference for Missouri companies, which is in state statute too. That preference is tied into lowest bid and percentages. So we aren't going against our own policy or against anything from statute by going to somebody that's out of the state. But we had two bidders, one in Farmington, one in our city, and we have one from Kansas, and Kansas is the lowest one. I would rather try to see if we have the time and opportunity before this starts to rebid it to see if we can get more local interest instead of spending state dollars out of state.
Understood.
That's it for me.
Well, if I'm understanding what you're suggesting is, I mean, to me, I understand, and I think we do always support local businesses and state businesses. But this playground, I think, needs to be begun. Maybe moving forward, we'll be more cautious of.
So I would say that the board does have the authority to accept another competing bid.
Okay.
Based on the finances that we have with bond, I recommend low bid. But that's simply my recommendation. That's just simply my recommendation.
If we approved it today, when would it start?
We have a 4 to 6 week delivery time for materials. And so when we talk about lead times in this market, they say 4 to 6 weeks. It may turn into 8. And I don't say that to put fear, but that's been my experience so far since July 1st.
Well, just
And
ask.
it may come in 3 weeks.
Just ask
I-
St.
who knows?
Charles West staff that had to endure a little hot days because we've been doing HVAC work since, because this market's just crazy.
And I have a question. AB Creative on their description gave us a $30,000 discount.
Correct.
For what purpose?
For their labor, essentially.
Okay.
And sometimes they get, they're the recipients with their contractual language with suppliers of playground materials. So when you see discounts like that, a lot of times it's due to that.
Because otherwise, they're one of the highest,
Right. Well, that's the thing. That's what's interesting about it. Well, the other interesting thing is because of our policy that makes reference over to 34.073. I'm a nerd for stuff. That makes a cross-reference over to 34.076. When we do something with a company that's out of state, they have to give a audited financial statement as would be required of a Missouri domiciled contractor or bidder. Do we have that?
We do not.
Okay. That is the extent of my questions. That's the extent of my questions.
How long did they say the project would take once it?
They believe they could get it completed by the start of school.
But materials 4 to 6 weeks.
Mhm.
We're starting school in
In August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the material is the longest pull.
Yeah, material would be the longest. Yeah.
I guess another question is, have we evaluated some of our other, seeing this as uncompliant, our other school playgrounds?
To my knowledge, yeah, that's a great question. To my
That is a good
knowledge,
question.
no. This is our biggest area of concern for playground equipment.
But it probably has opened our eyes to make sure we're double checking.
Absolutely.
Because to your point, we don't want to get into this situation again, hopefully, but good questions. And again, you guys have every right to table it or do what you want with it.
Well, do I have a motion to approve this Harris Playground bid? First of all, let's start with that. Do we have a motion to approve this bid?
I move we approve the Harris Playground bid.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, so we have 3 nays and 4 ayes, so it does pass. And we can get started on that playground. And I
But
think
not
we
by
all
much.
have the
You
same.
know, it's like, yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's why we
Yeah,
vote.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like,
that's fine.
And I think in our discussion, Daniel, that point of going out for a rebid made sense. But I hated to table it only because of the time, in this particular
exactly,
case,
yeah,
the timetable we had.
We vote and make decisions as a board. I understand the decision.
Oh, yeah.
I don't disagree with it either. I think it's valid to, there is a concern.
Yeah.
We need to replace that playground. I am just weighing other things that I would like to take the additional time. So that's, yeah, I get it. Which is what, that's why we're all here.
You're correct, by policy, we take the lowest bid, but if there are other extenuating kind of things that come in, like if it's a local person or something, I mean, we can,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be
The
a lowest bid.
179 was the one in Farmington, 182 was Earth City. We're talking about something that's already over budget because it's not even in there, and we're
Yeah,
talking
so-
about another 30 grand. You're talking about, I mean, I get it.
Maybe this time we're just
Yeah,
talking
I
money.
get it.
Yeah, and I do want you guys to know that you do have the authority to, in future reference, what I recommend is simply my recommendation. And a lot of times it's just based on finances for me. And there's other aspects, certainly. But you have the authority. And if there's a second or a third bid that you think is more desirable for us as a district, by all means, I would follow your lead.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
But you're still up, because now we're ready for item 11.01, the favorite part of our program, the district financial report.
All right.
Your favorite part of the program.
My battery's dead on my computer. I wonder why. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
the
good.
battery in my rear end is
Uh,
tired, too.
You want to get a charger?
What's that?
You want to get a charger?
No, it's good. We're going to move. Yeah. So, really what we're looking at here is, and what's most important to the board, as you guys have explained to me, is if, Chris, you go down to the bottom page, keep going there for the year end. We're looking at these figures here, specifically the Fund 1, the Fund 2 balances that project out to be right now for what we have in our fund balance of $27,153,000. We will still have revenue coming in, but you can see that revenue, if we would go back up to the monthly one, is starting to slow down considerably for March. Right there, Chris, right, one more there, please. In comparison to mid-December, January, and February. So we're still receiving local dollars. You see the state and the federal will still be coming into us, federal more so than any other figure once we get past that June mark. So we still have revenue coming in, is what I want to say, as we're going to be spending money through that June 30th time period. So the projection for us right now, if you go down, back down again, Chris, my apologies for having you move all around, it'll say 43.22%. For whatever reason, our software right now is showing that 62,833. That's not entirely accurate. You could see on another report in the financial that what that should show is $84,400 and some odd dollars of what we budgeted to spend. So that would actually put us at about 30.12% or something like that of what we have right now as an unrestricted fund balance, which is very similar to what we always are at this point in the time of this school year. So we're at just completed month 9. We're on month 10 right now. So of our fiscal year for the school district. So very, very happy with where we're at from a financial standpoint. As we go through that June 30th, we want to land somewhere in that 20 to 25% range. That's where we want to land. And that's what we budget for. So if you looked at our 22-23 budget, the projection was for us to land around 22.2%. That's the projection. So that's what we're shooting. That's not what we're shooting for, but that's what we believe we will land near. We typically with school budgeting, you want to be very conservative with those estimates, spending on budget, spending less, revenue less, spending a bit more. And your budget, so you come within at least a 2% range of what your final figure is. So we're comfortable where we're at right now, and, but I did want to point that out, that we're trying to figure out why that Fund 1, and 2, without manually changing it ourselves, because we don't want anyone to think we're manipulating data, but that figure isn't correct. And if you look at, Chris, if you get out of there real quick, please, and go to a different, go to the very last one, I believe is what it is. If you go to that one, and you see on the right-hand side where it says expenditures, if you look at the general fund, the self-insurance fund, the adult education fund, teacher fund, food service fund, and student activity fund, that's where you add all of those up, that's where you'll get that 84.4 figure from. And that is the Fund 1, Fund 2. We don't touch Fund 3, Fund 4 for our figures.
Any discussion on the financial report?
I move to approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The financial report is approved. Item 12.01, do I have a motion to recess to closed session?
I make a motion, we recess to closed session.
Do I have a second? That's a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all for staying for so long. We are adjourning to closed session.
Thank you, everybody.